but he hasn't molested anyone in years. TW, child molestation. First post here. Sorry for the formatting, I'm on mobile. Backstory: my older cousin molested me for 6 years and molested his brother and sister for 8 years. He was caught red-handed with his bro and sis when he was still a teenager and went through the courts and rehabilitation. This was years ago. Now he's married and has a son who's exactly a month older than my son. Cast EA, entitled Aunt, Molester's Mom. M, the dreaded molester cousin. EU, molester's wife. IB, Thea son the innocent baby. Me, magnificent example. BF, my boyfriend. S, my son. Us, random cousin's son. So at the time my son is nearing his first birthday and I get a phone call from EA. At the time I was on speaking terms with her, not anymore, not because of this. The phone call starts out pretty okay. EA, hi me. How's mama life? Me, pretty good. EA finally seem to be getting the hang of it. EA, S is almost 1 year old now. It will be 1 month before S. And us a month after that. Me, wait, really? I didn't realize all 3 babies were that close together. EA, yeah? We should get all 3 babies together for a photo shoot after their birthdays. I stopped cold. I promised myself I would never allow M around any of my children, and BF had already threatened to kill him if he came anywhere near me ever again. I was still trying to keep the peace a bit and was trying to think of a nice way to put it. That would be nice, but we are pretty broke and I don't think I can make it to city 6 hours away anytime soon. EA, well maybe we could come visit you. Me, that wouldn't be a good idea. BF and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate. EA, we could camp out in the living room. Me, nobody here would be comfortable with that. Besides, M isn't allowed around S, so it would have to be just you and EU. EA, what do you mean MISNT allowed around S? We're family. Me, you, EU, IB, and pretty much everyone else can come visit, provided you stay in a hotel room, but M will never be within 30 miles of my son. He lost that privilege when he decided to molest me and your other children. EA, but he hasn't done any of that stuff in years. Can't we all just forget about that? It happened so long ago. Long ago was about 6 years at this point. And EA refuses to talk about what M did most of the time and refuses to use the words molested or raped when she does talk about it. She just says vague words like stuff and things. Me, EA, no. I'm not going to feel bad for not letting a convicted child molester around my son. He may be reformed or whatever, but that doesn't erase his past actions, and I'm not going to risk the safety of my child. EA, well what if we just show up at your door? Me, well then M better learn how to run fast because BF knows about what he did to me and he already wants to kill him. The only reason he hasn't is because Emma lives in city 6 hours away. EA, but we're family. Me, you are. He isn't. EA, hangs up. I thought that was the end of that discussion. I had to calm down my very protective BF from driving to city 6 hours away and killing M just to keep him away from S. I told him that I put my foot down and I don't think anyone would bother me about it. Boy was I wrong. The next day I get a phone call from an unknown number. Me, hello? MW, hi, is this Garnet Strongathania? Me, yes. MW, it's MW. M's wife. I had met this woman once at a wedding when she was pregnant with IB. And she didn't say 2 words to me. Me, oh. MW, EA and I were talking about doing a cute photo shoot with IB, us, and S later this year. Me, afraid to go through this again. Well, it's a good idea on paper, but there's no way. EF and I are broke and I don't want to travel with an infant. But even if we could coordinate to have it in my city, I wouldn't want to tear you away from your husband for too long. MW, well he could come with me, not if you want me or S there. MW, why are you doing this? Me, excuse me? MW, we're trying to do something nice for you and you're making it impossible. Besides, M is with me now. And we have a son. He's better now. At this point I was done being polite. Me, look, your husband molested me for 6 years. He's a child molester and he will never be allowed around S. Never. If you want to risk your child, that's your business. I hung up. Thankfully I didn't ever hear anything else on the subject again. I did hear a few rumors about griping from some family members, but most of my other cousins with kids understood and my parents supported me. So I did feel a bit vindicated by my decision when M was caught sexting a 15-year-old about 9 months later. Edit 1. Thank you so much for the support I have received. Also for the gold and silver. Holy butternut. Edit 2, since apparently some people think this is BS. Here's my trauma timeline. M is 2 years older than me, I was 5 and he was 7 when it started. He stopped with me when I was 11. 6 years. I have no clue when he started molesting his siblings, but I know he was caught red-handed by EA the summer before I turned 13. Our sons are almost 4 at this point. Hopefully that clears up things for people who demand the math lines up. Edit 3, fixed the EU/MW mix-up. Sorry. Edit 4, M is currently in jail for the incident with the 15-year-old. He's not divorced and his wife still brings their son to visit him. I don't know any more information. Sorry. Edit 5, for any who are curious of why I no longer talk to EA. I posted the story here. He sexted a 15-year-old 9 months later. Guess old habits really do die hard. He got caught sexting a 15-year 9 months later. God only knows how long that was going on or what else he was up to. How the zucchini does a child molester find a wife? Deleted. I honestly don't even know how he is allowed to be around any children, even his own. You did the right thing. Your job now is to protect your family, whether someone has been rehabilitated or not, obviously not in this case. EA needs to just shut her pie hole, and get some serious therapy, as she seems to have not addressed the issue for what it is. There is some serious rug sweeping going on in that family. Probably because he was a minor at the time and EA made everyone downplay it. My theory anyway. Honestly, I completely understand your decision and support it, as my own mother was put in the same position by her own father, so she doesn't want to bring us anywhere around him, and when I was old enough to understand she told me why and I was just absolutely disgusted and horrified. So I really got to say you handled this extremely well for what he did to you. My son was a child molester, but he's changed now. Yay, because those kind of things just happen overnight. Edit, I wonder what the aunt thinks now after he was sexting that 15-year-old. EP thinks they rented the whole park. I'm at a city park with my kids. We've been to this park a bunch. There is this one spot where there is a rocky hill, all tree covered. Nice and shady on a hot day. There is a playground and a pavilion at the top of the hill. We get up there and I immediately notice loud noises and I'm having to step over cables and extension cords. Someone rented the pavilion and set up not one, but 3 bounce houses around it. Zucchini great. So I have to give the disappointing news to my kids that even though they are surrounded by bounce houses, they cannot play in them since this is a private party, but they are free to go hit the playground. Everyone is cool. I sit on a bench as my kids go to town on the fake pirate ship when I hear hey. That's when Ed, doing his best to imitate the situation from Jersey Shore, walks up to me and informs me that the playground is closed for a private party. Look at him and inform him that the public park does not close for private parties, and it sounds like he rented the pavilion nearby, which is fine, but doesn't give him exclusive use of the neighboring playground. He storms off and returns with a rental agreement and shoves it in my face, telling me to get my zucchini kids and leave. Right, so rental agreement is very clearly for the pavilion. All for the grand sum of $35 for 4 hours. How could any sensible adult think that $35 granted you exclusive use of a public playground? Moreover, why is it so important for you to have exclusive use of a public playground? I, again, point out to him that he rented the pavilion, not the park, and my kids won't go on his bounce houses and we won't go into his pavilion, but the playground is fair game for everyone. Begins hurling threats and I'm weighing just taking my kids and leaving to avoid this butternut. Then I decide I need to take a stand on principle. So I tell him to coconut off and proceed to use my phone to find the phone number for the park office. Our county staffs our parks. During the summer months they employ park rangers who have peace officer authority. I call the park ranger and tell him that there is trouble up at this shady playground and they need to come right away. Sure enough, as I'm getting off of the phone, Dolph returns with 2 of his meathead friends to tell me that they are ejecting me from the park. Oh, you're not. And if you touch me, I'm calling the cops and pressing charges. No anger, no rage. With this promise of action, however, one of them kind of widens his eyes and steps back, saying to his friend, just leave them alone. Man, this guy, for some reason, does not want the police coming, and it is very obvious. The ringleader won't back down, however, and tries his best to get in my face, scream and yell. He grabs my arm, I remove his hand. All of this just as I see the ranger pull up, yell for everyone to step back from one another and come over. Smug butternut shoves the rental contract into the chest of the ranger, telling him that I'm trespassing and he rented this space for the day for his kid's party. Now, normally I don't like posturing by law enforcement, but here it was pretty amusing. Ranger, touch me again and I'm arresting you. Reads contract. This is for renting the pavilion. You have use of the pavilion, but the playground is open for public use. Hands it back. Also, your permit doesn't allow you to set up bounce houses. Where did you plug these in? Ranger follows the extension cords and sees that they ran them to the nearby public bathrooms. There was an outdoor outlet. It was locked. This dude cut the lock off so he could plug in his cheesecake. Ranger comes back with the broken lock. Did you cut this lock? Yeah. It was like that when I found it. Really? Because it was intact this morning. So some random person cut this lock and you just happened upon it within the last 2 hours? Yeah, I guess. Long story short, he let them stay and let them keep bounce castles because he didn't want to ruin a kid's party. He wrote the guy a citation for the broken lock and the unauthorized power use and banned him from the park for the remainder of the season, after the party. Amazingly, this entire event was lost on my children, who barely noticed anything was going on, likely because of the compressor noise. At least one dude, regardless of reason, had the sense to step back and try to de-escalate. My guess is he had a warrant or was on probation, cause he was acting like a badass until I mentioned cops. As you said, though, whatever the reason, props to him for trying to shut it down. That park ranger had good sympathy. He didn't want to ruin the kid's party, but he still punished the guy. Dang. For being surrounded by bounce houses, this dude sure didn't have any joy in his life. One might say there was no spring in his step after the ranger got there. I guess it depends on the cop and the local laws, but I'm pretty sure if that happened where I am, they would have been forced to take down the bounce houses and unplug them, at the very least. Doubt they would have made them stop the party, but those bounce houses would be long gone. And for $35, I want to know how I get a sweet deal like that. I used to work as a ranger in a state park. We required a special use permit with insurance for anything like a bounce house. I can't tell you how many times people would rent our main pavilion, and that meant to them they could kick people out in the general vicinity. Nope. You have shelter, Wenny trains and a few extra tables. You don't own the park today. You would think that people would realize that you cannot rent the entirety of a space like that, especially for as little as the pavilion rental fee is. M tells my husband not to order for me or for me to use sign language. He has a little history of me, so this makes more sense. I'm non-verbal due to an injury and communicate exclusively via writing and sign language, unless I want to feel like I'm pouring half-molten nails down my throat. DH, my husband. M, entitled mother. Park, poor kid. Love eating at restaurants. Denny's, Applebee's, little family-owned Mexican and Chinese places, etc. With that means I gotta get my food, which my husband typically orders for me to avoid me playing a game of charades with the waiter/waitress. We were eating out and apparently this was wrong. So we were getting our food and this little kid near us, maybe 8 or 9, was watching us since the restaurant was fairly empty. Right after the server leaves, the kid can audibly be heard speaking with his mother, a woman probably in her mid to late 40s. Park, mommy. What about her? EM, she wasn't paying attention, I'd assume. What was that? Park. Park, he ordered for both of them. EM, he what? Park, the girl didn't talk to him. EM, that's not right, let's go see if there's a reason. Park. At this point she takes a few steps over towards us, Park in tow. EM, hi you two. DH, hello. EM, who is this? She motions towards me, your girlfriend? DH, close enough. Do you need something? EM, do you do that often? DH, do what often? EM, order for her? DH, all the time. EM, could you please stop that? DH, I'd rather not. EM, I'm asking nicely. Park, Can she not talk? DH, basica. M cuts him off. Just don't do it again. I don't want my kid to grow up to be some barbarian. DH, no, feel free to leave us alone. She leaves with a huff, and that seemed to be it for the night at first. As we got our food we started talking, signing, both clearly a little confused about what this strange woman's issue was. Now, when I'm saying crazy in sign language I use the ever-known finger pointing to head crazy, which I happened to start using right as she reapproached us. EM, what are you two doing? DH, please go away mom. EM, I'm not going to let you teach my kid gang signs. So stop it. DH, we're not teaching anything, it's C. EM, I don't care what it is, stop it. Just talk like normal people. She physically put air quotes on the word talk, classy. She soon walked away, and we continued our conversation with her angrily staring at us and trying to shield her kid from the terrific gang signs up until they left. On behalf of all people who don't talk, I'd like to apologize for encouraging gang culture. /S. M should go back to school and encourage this barbaric culture brought onto us by the government? How could you suggest such a thing? The correct response here is very loudly saying, look lady, for the second time, I do not want to buy your kid. Leave us alone or we will get the police involved. EM, what are you doing? Guy, we are. EM, did I cheesecake ask why ooh? Funny, had my kid at that age spotted people using sign language and shown interest, and if they looked friendly and open to questions, we would have approached them and introduced ourselves so that she would have the opportunity to meet people who used alternative ways to communicate, not to show off our ignorance. It's so sweet when someone brings their kids over and they start asking about it. Me and DH have met quite a few of our long-term friends through those types of interactions. What I don't get about this sub in general, and this post in particular, is people's general inability to just mind their own business and their tendency to just come lecture everybody about what they should be doing or not doing. Maybe it's just my social anxiety talking, but couldn't she leave them alone even though what she supposed they were doing conflicted with her ideology? Some men order for their female partners, for a variety of reasons, some misogynistic, so what? What happened to live and let live? You can teach your kid about gender equality without trying to publicly shame people who don't practice it to the letter of your law. And GT, some men order for their female partners. Not only that, it's not unusual for one person to do all the ordering. For example, when we went out when I was growing up, we would all talk about what we went out, and then my dad would order for the whole. Saves a little time, I think. I wonder how that would go over with this person. Smile. Regarding your first paragraph, amen.